assistant coach with the New York Liberty. Please raise your hands if you have questions. This is going to be her first time doing media with the New York folks, so if you could say your publication as well as your name, that would be great as she gets familiar with everyone. So let's kick things off with Erica Ayala.
Here I go. Yeah, Jackie.
Hey, Erica.
How are you?
Good.
Excellent. So I am with a bunch of places, but focusing mainly with Forbes Sports Money and Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm sure I'll say a bunch of other stuff throughout the season. But first, welcome to New York. And
thank you.
Of course. Also, I'm excited to know one other person from Stockton. I know of some guy named Michael Tubbs. You might have heard of him. But anyway, I wanted to ask you kind of how you got to New York. So I think I might have read or heard that coaching is something that maybe you kind of sort of thought of before, but what was your path here?
Yeah, it was a unique path, but an amazing transition for me. I always had coaching aspirations. I never really had the aspiration of coaching on the pro level in the WNBA, though if that opportunity presented itself, I would run to it, just exactly why I'm here. But yeah, I definitely thought there would be coaching in my future. And really when I retired and I put that on my Instagram, no more than like 2 or 3 hours later, Coach Walt had DM'd me and asked me what I was going to do after, post-career. And I told him, I don't know what's going on yet. I literally just made the announcement like 3 hours ago. And he was like, coaching with me, ? And my heart just dropped. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like that would be unreal because, I knew Coach Walt and Dustin from the bubble last summer. And we would always see each other in the weight room and passing and just had so many great interactions together. They were amazing people. I love them. I just loved the culture that they were building within New York. I thought they were just, phenomenal people and I enjoyed talking to them. So I think that our relationship was, kind of hit it off in the bubble and that's how we got acquainted. And then it just went from there. We got on the phone, we talked for 2 hours that night and I was just like, wow, I might be an assistant coach in the WNBA, my first job out of, not playing. And it was just kind of another like a layer in addition to a dream, living a dream. So.
That's fantastic. And then final thing from me, and it should be really quick, but how would you like us to pronounce your last name? I always try to get names right.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So if you want to break it down, if you're thinking like Jim and then Ellis, so Gemelos.
Gemelos. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Likewise.
Michelle Vopel.
Yeah, Jackie's Michelle Vopel from ESPN.com, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I wondered if you could, sort of put in perspective, and I know you've had to do this a lot, but this is, like you said, another part of this journey for you, and how you think you'll bring that into your coaching, helping people understand the resilience you have to have. And you're going to have a lot of young guards, that you're going to be working with some pretty big names. How does your resilience help you in terms of helping to young players to grow?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, what I really bring, the value that I do bring, especially into a young team, like you already said, just the experiences that I can share, and the struggle and the adversity and the things that I dealt with through my career, I think is a really good teaching point for me coming onto this side. We're dealing, with little nagging things going on right now. And it's just, I feel like I'm that coach that's able to kind of push players to the side and talk to them a little bit, get a feel for how they think and how they view things. And then, give them my perspective. And just, put myself in their shoes since it was so recent. I think that's been something that I've been able to lean on is the fact that my playing days were so recent that I think that they really hear me and they try to hear me. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback in response to little things that I'm able to say that, is just maybe completely different than someone else on the staff. So I've had so much fun. And I think that coming into this particular team, it being so young, a lot of girls are willing to listen. And that's just made my experience so much better. And I just think I'm meant to be here. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff Magliochetti.
Hey, Coach, welcome to New York. Jeff Magliochetti here with Empire Sports Media, Nets Republic, and Winsider. Welcome again. So when you were a player last year, what do you recall from your preparation sessions? How did other teams prepare for the Liberty? And did anything you remember from that process draw you to this organization and what they're trying to build now?
Well, I think what really drew me to the organization is one, just, the head coach, Coach Walt. I didn't have that much experience knowing him, but the little experience that I did have knowing him from the bubble, I think is what really attracted me just to him and the organization. I thought last summer in the bubble, if I were to get cut or if I didn't have a team next season, I would love to play for Walt. And I just think that the culture that he is building, and that, it's going to take time, but I think it's everything that I kind of embody myself. So I think that's initially what drew me in the most. I know in preparation for New York, it was hard for the teams that I played on. It's hard to scout a team like New York because the offense that they run, it's so predicated on just reading the defense and relying on your smarts and just relying on what you can do offensively. And that's hard because you don't have a set play. You can just say, oh, they run this, they run that. Like, no, they're reading, they're playing off of each other. It's very hard to scout. It's very hard to guard. And you bring the addition of Sabrina into that, and it's going to make things even harder. Someone with a, very high IQ and someone that knows the game and can feed off of her teammates. It's going to be really amazing once all the pieces get put together, and when Natasha gets here and Benijah and everybody else. It's going to be a great team.
In your own words, how can you help the team reach that next level while building on the pillars you mentioned just now?
Yeah, for me, I hope to be that person, that coach on staff that can kind of be that bridge for the players and the staff. Being able to relate to the girls and understand where they're coming from and be able to give that feedback to the coaching staff, I think is very important. It's great to have a player perspective and just have someone to listen to that's on staff that basically is still a player, and that's what I want to do. I want to be able to have a voice for the players within the staff.
Well, thanks, Coach. Have a great camp.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Sarah Valenzuela.
Hey, Jackie. Sarah Valenzuela from the New York Daily News. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you too.
What were sort of the different mental gears that you found yourself switching between when you first walked into this training camp, coming from, okay, well, now you're not a player anymore, you're a coach?
Great question. I think, I was really nervous at first, just for the simple fact that, I know pretty much a majority of everyone in the league. I've stuck around the game for so long. So it was just, making that jump now being on staff. It's having so many, friends and people that I've met along the way in the WNBA is definitely something where it made me nervous at first, but I really lean on the fact that this is such a young team and I don't really know a lot of the players here. So I just find comfort in that because I feel I can really coach and I can really teach and I can really give my, point of views on things. Whereas if it was such a veteran-based team, like if I walked in and was trying to, coach Sue Bird or Diana Taurasi, I would feel about that, So yeah, that's really what I lean on and I'm grateful about.
Jackie Powell.
One more quick follow-up. What was your reaction to the... Oops, sorry. Can you hear me? Oh, Sorry, I thought it cut out. What was your initial reaction the first time one of the players, or even just someone within the organization, called you coach?
Yeah, it was before individuals and we were getting tested. And someone called me by my first name, and Ohima, our basketball ops, was like, no, she's Coach Jacki. And she kind of set the tone right there. And I looked at her and I was like, they can call me Jacki. It's okay. But it was just, we're enforcing that early, refer to me as Coach Jacki. But that was the first moment where I was just like, no, it's okay, but it's like, no, I need to set that tone. And they need to refer to me just as they refer to Coach Walt and Coach Dustin and Coach Shelley.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jackie Powell.
Hello, Coach Jacki. This is another Jacki.
Great name.
Yes, fantastic name. I spell it with an E though at the end.
Most people do. I don't know. I don't know what my mom was doing. I don't know.
You're unique. What can I say? That's not a bad thing. I'm with the Next, and I'm with some other.
I love Next.
The Next loves you too. Jen Hatfield says hello.
Oh.
So first of all, welcome to New York. Couple questions I have for you is, so this is a team that had some issues last year with shooting slumps, especially in a system that's pretty reliant upon spreading the floor. So how do you think your expertise and experience with shooting slumps will help in year 2 of this relatively new Liberty system or way of playing?
Yeah. I watch the system and I see what we're being taught, what the players are being taught. And I just I sit there and I'm like, dang, I wish I could be in the system. It's a perfect system for a player like me. I would totally thrive in it. And then you're adding Sammy Whitcomb to that system as well. So that's going to be a different type of player. But I say my things with shooting without trying to make players overthink their shots. But I do think that there's been improvements from last season to this season across the board, just perimeter shooting. And I think that will be evident in the games statistically. But yeah, for me, just shooting is such a confident mindset. You miss one, you got to shoot the next one. So I enforce my routines. I try to enforce my ways of how I am as a shooter as much as I can in the perimeter guards. And I think the more time I have and the more, we get into things, I'll be able to use my voice more in that. But that is definitely my niche and something that I try to harp on with the perimeter players.
Brilliant. And so you are clearly known as the mayor of the Wubble. You have the ability to just get to know everyone. So I know it's been a few days, but what can you tell us about some of the personalities in camp? What should we know about the folks who weren't with the team last season?
Well, Michaela's great. For me, she's just been like a sponge. I feel like she's soaking up everything. She's has a smile on her face every day in camp. She's really, really fun to work with and be around. I think she's just going to be one of those personalities that everyone's going to enjoy having her. Other new people in the camp, JB, Janelle Bailey. She's been fantastic. She's more shy, but just like working her butt off and doing everything that, the staff is asking of her. I could go down the line, but it's a really good group of girls. I think, we have some goofy, funny girls on the team, and then you have, some of the more serious girls, but it's a really good balance. Their willingness to work hard and, give 100% on the court every day, I think is the most admirable thing about this team. And that's the benefit of having such a young team in the WNBA too, just like the work ethic behind, everything and their willingness to listen. And they have a good time together. The energy in practice is absolutely incredible. And that's something that I really focused and honed in on, because I've been on teams where, energy was a problem. And then I've been on teams where energy was great. So it's just like, that really makes a difference. And again, I go back to that being the youth factor. You know, it's just a really young team, and I love being around them. I think from 1 through 12 or 1 through 15 or however many we have in camp, it's a really good base.
Thanks so much. Great to meet you.
Nice meeting you too. You're welcome.
All right, last question, Jackie. I'm going to go to Doug Feinberg.
Oh, Doug.
What's up, my friend? Good to see you. I apologize for jumping in late here. I have 2 questions. If you answered one already, I apologize. Although
Okay.
answer the first one.
You're my guy, Doug. Anything for you.
How excited are you to be back in New York and have some solid Greek food? Is the first question.
Well, you know what? I'm like still waiting for someone to tell me which Greek restaurant to go to. I've seen a bunch of Mediterranean spots, but I want specific Greek recommendations. So if you got something for me, let me know.
I mean, I just went to the place we went years ago, and I trusted you on that one. So I trust your recommendation more than mine. The second question, though, is a little more serious. Is this something coaching you think you want to do long term? You want to get maybe a head coaching job down the road, or something you're trying out now? Like, what's your thoughts on becoming a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, I've talked to a lot of coaches, and a lot of them have said they didn't have aspirations to be a head coach in the beginning of their coaching careers. That's also me. I don't have that, you know, that desire. Who's to say that won't change? I think for now, for me, it's being on this side of things is really learning how to coach. And I have great role models and great coaches here on staff that I am just retaining so much from every single day. Like Shelly, she's been around this league for 25 plus years. You know, Walt has been on different staffs. Dustin has worked a lot with men. Like there's so many things that I've been able to get from all 3 coaches that I'm just really trying to soak it in and learn myself so that I can become a better coach. And I know for me as a player, I was a workhorse. You know, I worked hard, and I tried to put in a lot of time on the court to do well at what I did. And I totally think that I'm going to do the same here with coaching. And who knows if that will change one day if I want to be a head coach. I have no idea. It's really early to say that. But for now, I love being an assistant, and I love learning, and I love helping out and just, you know, doing what I can to help the team.
Thanks, Jack.
Welcome, Doug. Nice talking to you.
All right, Jackie, for the sake of time, I'm going to cut it off here. There will be more opportunities to speak with Jackie, everyone, but we're going to let her go and let in Jocelyn Willoughby.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right, everyone, please raise your hands if you have questions for Jocelyn. Let's start with Miles Ehrlich.
Hey, Jocelyn. Miles Ehrlich with Nets Republic, Winsider, and Queen Ballers Club. This offseason, you partnered with Cafe Con Libros to launch Read What You Sow, picking novels that highlighted social systemic injustices facing minority communities. While I apologize for my own spotty attendance at those, this book club really offered incredible insight into your eagerness to learn, to educate, to share experiences. And you've always been candid with us about your desire to engage with the community. And now that you have, even if remotely, what has that experience been like for you?
It's been phenomenal. We had our last private discussion last Tuesday. And I think just, you know, one, the conversation that we had based on the book that we're reading or just completed was really inspiring, but also just to see how we've grown from day one to now in terms of the questions that we're asking ourselves, how vulnerable and open people are able to be in sharing their experiences, or, you know, what they were still trying to understand, you know, changes that they want to see in our society, like all of that, to see how we've grown was really, really inspiring. And so I was just really thankful because I felt like I learned as much from the group and the books as everyone who joined learned from me. And so to be able to have that engagement and share that experience, it really meant a lot. And to know that people found it really valuable was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for doing that. It was really a tremendous experience.
Thank you.
Jackie Powell.
Hey, Jocelyn, great to see you again. So a couple questions from me. I'm curious as to what the role is this season for the sophomores. What has the staff indicated is sort of the role, because y'all aren't rookies anymore, but you also, you know the system. But some of the vets or the cavalry that's going to come in from overseas, they don't exactly know the system yet. So sort of what do you see as your responsibility as sophomores or sophomore?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm not a rookie anymore, and that's kind of crazy. Like a whole year has gone by. But, you know, to a certain degree, because we had such a large class last year, we weren't rookies last year either. We were expected to be able to contribute, even though there was going to be a learning curve. But there's a learning curve for everyone, right? It was a new staff, a new group, and a lot of things had to be put in place. Foundations had to be built, systems had to be learned. And I think, granted, we know what to expect more this year, and our culture is a little bit more established, but we're still building in terms of, you know, having great energy every day, being competitive, being hard workers. And we have some new pieces joining us. So I think, again, we're all building. There are still expectations that we're, I guess, or greater expectations from last year, since we aren't experiencing as deep of a learning curve, or steep, I should say, of a learning curve. But yeah, I personally don't say like, oh, now that I'm a second year sophomore, I have all these extra responsibilities, because for me, you approach your work the same way, whether you're first year or in your 10th year. You don't cheat it. And yeah, that's just my personal take on it.
Brilliant. And so I want to know a little bit about the facility that you were practicing in. Can you sort of take me inside and explain how this is very different from what you all experienced in Florida? And what does being in Barclays feel like? You know, how do you feel like the facility has welcomed you all?
Yeah, I mean, it's great being in Barclays. One, having a facility that we can come into, you know, it is our home now. It's different, obviously, from being in the bubble, being that we aren't sharing the courts with a bunch of other teams, you know, having very small windows of time where we can get in and do our work. So to just have a facility that's home, that we can come in, it's nice to be able to walk in and like security knows us, or you kind of build those relationships. And, you know, it's just having home, having an arena. It's been great so far. So I'm very appreciative.
Wonderful. Amazing. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Same. Thank you.
Next we'll go to John. I can't see your last name, but from Global Traveler.
Yes, John Robleski from Global Traveler. I was just wondering, what was your biggest lesson that you learned in your first year that you'll take into this year?
I think, I don't know if this is the biggest, but one of the bigger lessons I've learned is just appreciating small growth. I think coming in, you know, there were certain things in positions I was being put in that I hadn't had a lot of experience in college or previous teams that I played in. And so going through that transition, it was hard or frustrating to not be able to make certain moves or have certain skill sets in my bag already. But slowly but surely, as I just continue to put in the work, not everything translated immediately, but slowly but surely I've been able to see some growth. And so that has been really a big lesson for me, being patient and, you know, not necessarily coming in every day and saying, oh, can I do it now? Did I do it, you know, one day at a time, but maybe within a week or maybe within a month, and appreciating how you're growing over time, even though it's hard to see in the short term. And I just add that applies both to me individually, but also as a team. We didn't necessarily see the results that we wanted in the short term last year, but I think from last year to this year, like we've grown from the first game to the last, we grew. And so appreciating that over time.
Danny Thompson.
Jocelyn, Danny Thompson with 3-point conversion. Welcome back to New York. Kind of piggybacking in a different way. When it comes to the growth of this team, did you have a chance to speak to any of your teammates during the time away, or did you have a chance to work out with any of your teammates between now and the beginning of training camp?
Here and there, not so much one in terms of working out with each other because there's still COVID protocols in place to keep us healthy and safe as we're all coming back to group activities. So, you know, I hadn't really been able to see my teammates on the court too much until we were all back together. In terms of in the off season, I was overseas and Joyner was in Israel with me, and so has Benaida. She's not back yet, but you know, I got to see them here and there, but it wasn't, you know, as much interaction on the court as clearly we would have now here.
And speaking of Benaida, you mentioned her playing in Israel. When you found out that she was coming to the Liberty, what was your first impression, or what were your first thoughts when you said, "Oh, I get to play with her instead of against her"?
I was really excited, and I think based on her coming, I could kind of see the vision of the organization, the direction that we're trying to go into. I know Benaida's a hard worker. I know she went to Rutgers, so kind of, you know, homegrown in some ways. Plays great defense. She had an amazing season last year and showed just great growth and improvement. And so I was just really excited about the addition. I'm like, I know for sure, based on everything that we've added, yes, we're going to be better offensively, but we are going to get to work on defense too. And so that's really exciting.
Erica Ayala.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Have to echo what Miles said about the book club. Had a good time joining that. But I wanted to go back to actually something that you told us while you did the exit interviews, that you really felt that the WNBA could be a fantastic case study on how to handle social justice and athlete activism and a lot of those kind of advocacy, those words that are tossed about when it relates to sports and society. Thinking about that, what excites you about, maybe excites is not the right word, but energizes you and empowers you about how things have turned out regarding social justice and the verdict that we saw with Chauvin, and also that the U.S. Attorney General is inquiring into the conduct of the Minneapolis Police Department as well as the Louisville Police Department?
Yeah, there's a lot in that question. So I'm trying to think of where I want to tackle it first. I think, you know, and granted, I said this in my book club discussion about a week ago. It was, the verdict was more recent then. So, you know, there's so much going on in this world. And so, yes, there are, I think, I don't even know if I want to say bright spots, but events that can give us hope, with one being the verdict, two, you know, the initiative to investigate some of these police departments, but there's still so much injustice where it's kind of like, yeah, you feel like you take a step back, there's progress, but there's still so much work to be done. And so for me, it's finding the balance between being realistic, and some people may say cynical, but also being optimistic on the other end. And you know, I'm still struggling to find that balance because, as I said, there is so much happening. But I think as an individual, as the league, or as a team and as the W, you know, we're still putting our heads down, going to work and trying to figure out how we can impact where we can impact. And so there's still a lot of conversations to be had to figure out what exactly that looks like as individuals, as teams and a league for this season. And I'm excited to see how we continue to commit our voices, our platforms to clearly the enormous amount of work that still has to be done. So.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you kind of the bigger question that I've been asking around the WNBA, but again, going back to that book club and Café con Libros actually being in the community now, and the New York Liberty actually being in the community now, in what ways do you feel that perhaps that as an action, as creating community, maybe fell along that spectrum that you just talked about?
Spectrum of what? Can you say that one more time?
Sure. You were kind of talking about, you know, the difference of being hopeful and having hope versus being cynical about news. So kind of thinking about that. That's a wide spectrum of emotion, I should say. And so how do you feel the action of the book club maybe fell into place and provided a space for wherever people may lie on that spectrum?
I mean, I think we created a very safe space to, one, honestly figure out where we are on that spectrum, as you mentioned. One thing I was very intentional about in each meeting is being honest and real about, okay, uncovering what are the real issues here, or what do we see as the real issues? But then always trying to make it constructive. I think it's easy to just point out problems and sit with them. It's a little bit harder to say, okay, where do we go from here? Where is there hope? Where is there opportunity? And I think I tried. I don't know how successful I was. I like to think I was somewhat successful, but balancing those two perspectives and outlooks. And so I think, moving forward, seeing the impact that my book club had, I think it was inspirational and optimistic, because I think it allowed people to reflect and be hopeful of saying, okay, this is what I know now, and I can apply this knowledge in my profession and within my family and so on and so forth, and make impact to create or make ways towards progress. But I think before you can kind of have that outlook, you need to have a realistic understanding of what's going on. And so I think the book club provided an incredible opportunity for that as well. So yeah, I think it was definitely along the spectrum. Yeah.
It was also nice to take off my journalism hat for a little bit and engage in those conversations. And I thought you did a pretty good job. So
thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jocelyn. For the sake of time, we're going to stop here with her. We have Neah Odom waiting, as well as Kylee Shook. So Jocelyn, thanks so much. Give us a second as we get Neah into the room. Everybody, raise your hands for questions.
Thank you all.
All right, let's start with Jeff Magliochetti.
Hi, Neah. Welcome to New York. It's great to see you again. Yesterday when we were talking to Laisha Clarington, they said that you were, quote, a completely different person. So in your eyes, how have you changed from last season to this one?
They're probably talking about maybe me being very vocal this year. I've been trying to work on that in the off season. For me, it's not easy to be vocal. So yeah, just focusing on that and encouraging my teammates to do well throughout practice.
You've recently brought in, the team actually has brought in Coach Jim Ellis into the fold. So what can a player who has been on the court as recently as a year ago, now turning into a coach, how can they be of help to you, the current player?
She knows the game. She knows how to fight through adversity. She knows how to do so much. And so just getting any point of wisdom from her, I would really appreciate it. So I think she can help us a lot.
Thanks a lot. Have a great camp.
Jackie Powell.
Hey, Neah, good to see you again. You're actually in New York, so exciting. So I have a Duke-related question first. If you can, humor, or not humor me, but so your coach at Duke, Coach P, she published a book in February about her experience with bipolar disorder. So I'm curious as to what your reaction was when you heard that she was writing a book. And is there anything that stands out that you learned from her about mental health, self-care, and just well-being in general on the court?
I wasn't really aware that she published a book, but she was a strong advocate for it. We had like a mental health game every year and stuff. So she was really strong about her beliefs and focusing on mental health. So I'm excited for her to really express how she's been going through it. And yeah.
And to another question from me, can you tell us about some of the personalities in camp? What should we know about the people who weren't with you all at the Bradenton Webble from last year?
Right now we're just focusing on, just getting better, focusing on defense. Personality is not something we're really looking at, because everyone's being loud, being vocal and stuff like that. And we're just all having fun, glad to be back out on the court and just excited to be in Brooklyn.
And about defense, what was your reaction to when Coach Walt Hopkins said to you all, this is our identity this year?
I was like, I was excited. Defense is like the biggest part of my game. So, that's just a fun thing to do. Now it's a team-wide focus, and this is going to be an exciting year.
Thanks so much, Neah. Good to see you again.
Miles Ehrlich.
Hey, Nay, welcome to New York finally. Last season was obviously strange for a whole bunch of reasons, but this is your first real training camp experience because of just how abbreviated everything was, and you're in your own practice space. How has that impacted getting prepared for the season, especially now that you know the personnel and so many of your teammates?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous because I didn't get to experience a real training camp last year. It was like we already made the team. So this year's a little different. We're all going out for 12 spots and stuff like that. So, the energy's high, the competition level's high, and we're just excited to be on the court.
Thank you.
Last question, Rafiq Lewison.
This is Rafiq with Nothing But That Sports Talk. Thank you for actually finding the time to speak with us today. I just want to know, since it's your first training camp here in New York, what are your impressions about the whole Barclays Center environment and being able to practice in an actual basketball court compared to the Wubble last season?
First thing is we get to use the gym kind of almost whenever we want. I mean, Brooklyn Nets is still in here, so we kind of have to go around their schedule, but it's better than the bubble where we only had a select hours. We couldn't really come back to work out on our own. And if we did, there's probably other teams on the court. So that's a plus in itself there. And, it's a really nice arena. I love it here. I played here my senior year in high school, so I'm excited to be back in here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Neah. Next, we have Kylee Shook. Let's give her a second to get into the room. Thanks. All right, everyone. Let's begin with Jeff Magliochetti.
Hi, Kylee. Welcome back to New York, or welcome to New York for the first time, as a matter of fact. Good to see you again. And, the team recently hired Coach Jim Ellis as an assistant, someone who has very recently taken a WNBA court as a player. How can someone who was a player so recently help you now as a coach take the next step of your development?
Just because she's an amazing player in the league, so she already knows kind of the ins and outs. And then on top of that, she's a player, so she's relatable to all of us. It's kind of nice having somebody who's been there, been through the body aches, been through the stress of what we have to go through, and kind of telling us what to do. It's nice having a player who used to be player coach us.
It's going to be a bit of a different look this year because Amanda Zawi is no longer there, and now you got Natasha Howard working with you in the interior. So what are you hoping to gain from working with Natasha now?
Well, they were both vets, both amazing players. I feel Natasha brings a different players aspect than Zawi does because Zawi is an amazing shooter. Natasha has really good percentages, but I think I can learn a really good role game from her and just kind of follow her steps on being a good post player.
Thank you. Have a great camp.
Thank you.
John, Global Traveler.
John Roblesky with Global Traveler. Thank you for your time. What was the biggest lesson you learned last year that you could take into this season?
To take care of yourself, your teammates. The bubble was definitely hard mentally, so I think all of us learned how important it is to focus not only on the court, but off the court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica Ayala.
Hey, Kylie, I actually wanted to follow up with that a little and spin it, not just what you learned, but what are some things that you're focused on for yourself coming into, your first quote unquote traditional training camp in the WNBA?
Of course, I want to come in with confidence, being confident in myself and the work that I put in the off season, but I definitely want to be aggressive on offense, defense, just kind of want to find my niche and how I can help the team with the new players coming in and the coach is trying to help me. So just kind of stay on focused and do what I can do to help the team.
And Kylie, I've asked you before about Louisville as a city was under somewhat of a microscope because of a lot of what happened and things that the WNBA literally put on their backs last season. The U.S. Attorney General has announced that he will be looking into the police departments in Minneapolis and also Louisville, so that at the federal level there'll be some investigation into those police departments. I would just be open to any thoughts or opinions that you maybe have on that, given what the WNBA has focused on.
Yes, I mean, I think the WNBA gives us a good pedestal to say how we feel and kind of use our voice. And since we are on that pedestal, our voice can echo further than others. But I think it's good. I think that we need police. We need everybody to do their jobs. We need justice. We need just things to go the right way. We need to stop having these encounters that go wrong and hold people accountable. So I was never personally around with it with Louisville. It was always just kind of safe. But there's been a lot of things going on in the world that we can't control right now. So just got to focus on what we can focus.
Thanks, Kylee.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take 2 more questions. One from Jackie Powell, one from Miles Ehrlich.
Great. Hey, Kylee, great to see you again. You're in New York, must be very exciting. So when we met you last summer, you mentioned how nerdy you were when it came to defense. You geeked out for us. It was fantastic. So now here at training camp, Coach Hopkins has sort of said, okay, our identity is going to be defense. So what is your reaction to that? And why personally do you believe that this shift is happening?
I feel like defense has always been the key to winning a lot of games. I think people are just now really starting to focus on it. And Hopkins is definitely one of those good coaches who pays attention to detail by detail by detail. So I think the film that everybody's watched, they realize that defense is an important aspect, and he's definitely a coach that focuses on it. So I mean, I'm excited. I love defense. That's always been my strong point. So I think it'll be great to go out on the court and do what I can do.
Miles.
Hi again, Kylee. With all the pandemic circumstances last season, which limited workouts and made those Zoom-led pre-camp info sessions that you guys had a thing, you really didn't have the real WNBA training camp experience. While there are still protocols in place now, how does it feel to be part of a real training camp? And are you more appreciative having already been a pro for a year and shook off some of those first-year jitters?
Yes, definitely. I think having that year under my belt is helping me a lot. But no, I think it's great having training camp because we can finally get out there, finally just get in the gym. Last year it was kind of hard because everything was shut down, and it was kind of like we got thrown out there. And the coaches had 2 weeks to get us ready, and there are a lot of injuries, body aches, and I think this year it's nice because we get to work into stuff, we get to teach, we have more time to actually focus on what we need to focus on, the minor details, the big details. So I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Awesome. Thank you, Kylee. And thank you all for joining. We will be sending you shortly. Bye, Kylee. She just ran away. Okay. We'll be the recording shortly to you all, and we look forward to seeing you on media the rest of the week. Thanks, guys.